Ladies and gentlemen, welcome again to the daily streams of the Hoeksteen Live, direct here from the capital of the Netherlands, of Holland, the touristical city of Amsterdam. And today we're going to start with pointing out this issue of Foreign Affairs magazine, which says, "See America, a land of decay, a land of dysfunction." And if you want to know what they mean by it, the whole issue is about that subject. We're going to fly around the world with you, literally, and first we're going to point out the new edition of Inspire magazine, which is a magazine sometimes appearing made by Al-Qaeda, the group which is supposed to be responsible for the 9/11 attacks and many more attacks in many more countries around the world. And in their newest edition of Inspire, they have a call on people in the West to go and do suicide missions on British Airways and EasyJet, because they want to hurt the West, they want to hurt the British, they want to take down these touristic planes. And talk about planes, we're going to go right away from this call from Al-Qaeda to the airplane from Air Asia that disappeared in the sea of Indonesia, they say. And it's very remarkable because this is the third plane in a year time which disappears from Air Malaysia, because Air Asia is a Malaysian-run, low-cost, EasyJet sort of company. And we're now going to check what the news has to say about this.
An MH370, but there are important differences as well. Flight 370 vanished from civilian radar less than an hour after it took off from Kuala Lumpur. The AirAsia flight likewise disappeared from tracking screens less than an hour after departure from Surabaya. Neither plane sent a distress call, but in the case of the Malaysian jetliner, it was a perfectly clear moonless night. The 162 passengers and crew of AirAsia 8501 were experiencing very bad weather. What sensationalized the case of the Malaysian jetliner's disappearance was that the search was pressed in the South China Sea for the better part of a week.
Breaking news here on CNN is the mystery of Flight 370.
CNN broke the news barely 48 hours after the plane had gone missing that Malaysia's own military radar showed it was gone from that area within an hour of takeoff. The government had hesitated. Critical information was withheld. Malaysia Airlines didn't tell families Flight 370 was even missing. Families felt deceived. Many accused Malaysian authorities of a cover-up. Conspiracy theories exploded on the internet, even as officials were belatedly trying to set the record straight. Because weather couldn't be a factor for MH370, many of those theories centered on terrorism. Although no link to terrorism was ever uncovered, it was too late, and whatever information was released by Malaysian authorities seemed contradictory and meaningless. Most passengers were Chinese nationals, and China took the unusual step of allowing their families to take to the streets in protest. AirAsia appears to have learned lessons from the MH370 tragedy and moved quickly to inform families. Indonesia's transport ministry also responded. A passenger manifest and load list were online within hours. Critical questions remain. In the hours and days ahead, radar records and search efforts may yield answers for the families of AirAsia Flight 8501. The final similarity: neither plane had the kind of GPS locator so many experts advocated after the disappearance of MH370. Nearly 10 months later, that may be the lesson we haven't learned. Jim Clancy, CNN.
And from my colleague Jim Clancy, we go direct to check out what's the flight situation above these islands where the plane disappeared right now. Live as we speak, this is happening down there with our flight information. And now, like Air Malaysia, we lost our flight information. We might get it back, or we move on just to the next drama we have for you. This is the problem with the ferry between Greece and Italy that sunk. Rescue workers are still busy trying to get people off of this ship. 5 have died already. Like in the airplane of Air Asia, more than 160 people are missing. Here 5 people are called dead. A lot of people have been rescued, but there are still people aboard and with helicopters to try to fly them out. Let's check out these news reports.
Now 24 hours since this large fire broke out on the ship, and over half of the people have been rescued. The latest update we have is that 284 people have been rescued off the ship. But progress remains quite slow because most people have to be moved by helicopter. The weather conditions are still not good. An effort had been made during the night to tow the ship, but it was abandoned due to weather conditions. So it's mainly helicopters operating. The last people have been rescued by Super Pumas, which can only take up to 7 people at a time. The good news is that we do have rescuers that are now on the ship. They're reporting that the condition of the people, of course, they're shocked. Many are suffering from hypothermia, but most of them do not seem to have any other problems. And the other good news that we have is that the first ship with survivors, 49 people on board that ship from the original ship, are now approaching the port of Bari in Italy. They have just reached the port of Bari. We have images on TV showing us that it just reached the port. So 49 people have been taken to Bari, and rescue operations continue as, of course, daylight is very much helping operations, though the weather conditions remain very unstable.
Linda, do they have the fire under control? Is it out? And what is the condition of the ferry? Is it in danger of sinking?
As far as we know, and it's very difficult to tell, I mean, the fire has been under control for a long time, but there's still so much smoke that it's been impossible to tell whether it's been completely put out. The passengers, because there's still communication with the passengers, people have been calling in Greek TV stations throughout the day yesterday, and they have been doing so this morning as well. They're saying that there's been a lot of smoke, that they've been choking. They've been describing really difficult conditions, and they've been talking about a fire that's still ongoing, but that's something that we still can't confirm at this point.
And some of those accounts coming from the passengers on board have been incredible, to say the least. What's the latest that the passengers have been phoning through and putting out on social media?
Well, I think the main thing, especially during the night, is that people have been very scared. They've been sitting on a dark ship after many hours. Most of them have been shivering and are very cold. They've been sitting on the dock of the ship, on the very top, trying to follow rescue operations. And, morale at that point can be very low. They've been trying to contact family. They've been asking for help. They've been saying, come and save us. We've even had calls from people panicking, saying that they might jump in the water. Obviously, that would be the worst thing to do in a case like this. And earlier in the day, we've been hearing from people who've been talking about feeling that their shoes are melting from the heat, and especially the area where they were able to be on just being more and more contained and getting smaller and smaller, while on the other hand, all they could see was big waves and deep sea.
Awesome.
The latest reports we have suggest that around half of those originally on board are still taking refuge on board that stricken ferry, the Norman Atlantic. One report we received overnight suggests that medical workers have been on board the ship to distribute blankets. And that, if confirmed, will be extremely significant because it has been bitingly cold here in Brindisi, even more so, one would imagine, out in the Adriatic. And to get supplies and blankets to those on board the ship will make a huge difference.
And of course, we've been hearing about physically what's involved in towing this ship. I understand helicopters are taking it in turn to actually tow the ship to try to bring it to safety.
I can't confirm that helicopters have been trying to tow the ship, but I can confirm that helicopters have been winching passengers up in groups from that upper deck of the ferry. And throughout the day yesterday, they were hampered by both strong winds and huge amounts of smoke, which is why the rescue has not gone as quickly as they would have imagined. They've managed to take those passengers on board nearby ships, and then slowly those ships, some of them have been able to get into ports, although they've had to sometimes change their destinations because of the strong winds.
And there you have our reports here on the live stream of the Hoeksteen Live. Live stream of the Hoeksteen Live. Our reports on the stream of the Hoeksteen Live. On the ferry drama which is happening as we speak in the Adriatic between Italy and Greece. And in Greece there's not a problem at the moment. There are votes. Is there going to be a new president? Is there going to be a new thing? Or are there going to be new elections? This we will hear later. There is no footage as so far that we have for you. So we're going to go to some other politics now. We're going to go to the Georgian parliament of the city of Tbilisi. There we go. See what's happening down there.
All-out war. Georgian lawmakers have clashed with each other during a legislative session. And the brawl broke out when MPs were discussing Georgia's delegation to the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe. The fight happened when an opposition MP from the United National Movement Party made a vulgar remark during a speech by a member of the ruling Georgian Dream Coalition. Following the incident, parliamentarians from both parties engaged in a fight, punching, kicking, and beating each other. Some MPs even tore off their microphones from their desk and used them as weapons to fight their opponents. Despite all the chaos, the parliament speaker did not call off the session and forced the lawmakers to vote on the issue only 15 minutes after the brawl.
And there you have international politics for you. And now we're going to check live what's happening on the BBC, the British Broadcasting Corporation. And we're going to walk there. And as what we see now is a commercial running down there, that we should go to some country on a holiday or buy a car. It looks a little bit like China. Let me guess, Taiwan, I think. Macau. Okay, the news.
Because he's convinced that Kenyan men have a hard time.
We have 99.9% of NGOs and government-funded organizations which articulate the issues of women and girls. We need to talk about both sexes. We need to talk about the challenges of human beings, not sideline oneself. And I must say, according to the research that we did last week, which shows that over 2.1 million men in Kenya are legendary abuse, economic abuse, legal abuse, and even physical abuse. Let me talk about physical abuse in Pakistan.
When our women beat us because our wallet is empty. My wife, there is a money. Me, I don't have nothing.
I was really quite struck by the fact that these men strongly believe that as women have gained more rights in Kenya, that they've somehow been deprived of their rights, and they really have quite strong grievances.
There is the issue of why should you marry a second or third wife. It is simply because if your first or second wife does not respect you as a man, does not care for you, cook for you, do all those things that she's supposed to do, then you're not supposed to just stay there and live a full stress life. Then you need to go and maybe
And look for a third and fourth.
Yeah.
And what makes men think that if the first and second doesn't so-called respect you, a third and fourth will.
Of course, there is an aspect of the second wife comes in and she knows why she's coming in. She knows that she is coming in because that other woman has failed. So she's coming in desperate, knowing that if I don't manage this man properly, then of course he's going to get another wife.
It's not just in the rural areas where this ancient tradition is practiced. Polygamy is also flourishing in the heart of Nairobi. In Kibera, Africa's largest slum, Morris Odongo splits his time between two wives who live 10 minutes apart. Morris first married Veronica 17 years ago, and they had 5 children. But when things started to go wrong, he took radical action.
Wakati niligundua akona marafiki zake nje, moyo wangu ilikuja, yani ilikasirika kabisa. Nilikasirika kwa moyo wangu kwa sababu huwezi ishi na mtu kwa nyumba na baadaye anaenda nje ya ndoa na hajakuambia. Sasa atakuambia kwa matendo zake.
The couple had had a customary wedding, and he comes from the Luo tribe where polygamy is common.
Kila wakati mwanaume hawezi kukuambia anaenda kuoa. Utastokea tu kuna bibi. Kwa hivyo hakuniambia. So naona ni kama pengine umeachwa mahali pengine, umewachwa kando. Kuna vitu zingine inafaa mtengeneze mkiwa wawili. Na sasa kama unaona kama haiwezi tengeneza, hakuna venye utafurahia. Kwake ataona ni vizuri. Na kwangu nitaona ni vibaya. Yes.
Neither of his 2 wives rely on him for money to raise the children, but they compete for his attention. One big source of conflict is the amount of time he spends in each home. But do you think 2 nights a month is too little?
No. 2 nights.
2 nights
2
a month?
nights. No. I'm saying no.
Tell the truth.
Last month. Okay.
Only last month
No.
is when he came here 3 days. But always 2 days or 1 day.
And living just a few streets away was Morris's second wife, Bridget. He married her 6 years ago, and they have 3 children. She felt the wrath of the first wife right from the start.
When nilioleka, tulikaa sana bila kusalimiana, kuongea, kujuana, ni kama amenifuria. Na mimi sina ubaya lolote moyoni mwangu. Kukosa kuwa na wivu ni juu. Kitu ya kwanza, mimi namjua Mungu na experience nimechukua through kupitia wazazi wangu. Babangu mzazi alikuwa na mabibi 3.
But despite the obvious stresses, Morris says being married to 2 different women has its compensations.
Of course, being with the one wife is just like a chronic disease. Everybody's jealous. Yes, they must be jealous. Yeah.
You must like it.
I like it. I like it. Because if I come here today, I will eat chapatis as you have seen. If I go down there, I will eat rabuoni, sweet potatoes. Yo, that's a diet. Yes, I like it.
The sense I'm getting from the men that I'm speaking to is that polygamy works and that the relationships can be balanced. But when I speak to the women, they're deeply upset, especially the first wives who don't welcome the arrival of a new woman into their relationships.
The marriage is always controlled by a man. That is a fact. Even if today you are married by an illiterate man, he is still the head of that house. That's how we are brought up culturally by our mothers. And this system is in our blood. That once I'm married, even now I'm an MP, my husband controls my family. and this we cannot change.
If you go into the city, of course they will not bring the wives together. You won't even know that your husband has got another girlfriend. And yet, he does it. Or sometimes he'll even come home very late. What do you think? Unfaithfulness is too much in Kenya.
Campaigners are encouraging Kenyan women to consider the option of a civil or church marriage, which doesn't allow polygamy. But this law has divided the country, with some seeing it as safeguarding African customs, while others accuse it of being sexist and old-fashioned.
This first and foremost makes a woman feel like an object, that a man can just walk out in the morning and come back with another wife without even consulting the wife. Or just imagine a man's first wife is 45 years and brings in a 19-year-old girl. How would a 45-year-old woman compete with a 19-year-old girl? In all matters. In the bedroom. So it makes these women feel vulnerable, and then what's going to happen is that these women will also look for younger men. And then you start seeing men in the streets fighting.
Although this controversial law offers some legal protection to women in polygamous marriages, it also endorses a man's right to deceive his wife or wives over and over again. And these young Kenyans living a modern Nairobi lifestyle reflect this contradiction, because despite their global outlook, many of them are also drawn to traditional African values.
This thing is not right because it will torture our integrity. It is going to destroy a certain family setting.
Freedom is giving you the right to do what you want. You getting another wife is not up to the leadership to decide whether you get another wife or another husband. It's up to you. The president will not come to your house and tell you, go get another wife. Go get another wife.
I think people are looking at us like we're this immoral people. Because the more we promote that, the more we're giving, as we say, we're giving men right to just have more than two women or more than one woman. And what makes you sure that he will stick to those three women is definitely with other women outside there. The more we promote that, the more it promotes promiscuity and immorality.
If we give this man an opportunity to get married to any lady that is out there, we are telling him you can misbehave the way you want.
Let me ask, would you ever indulge in a polygamous marriage?
Yes, I would. I would. Make those capable of taking care of them.
No one in this society would love to be shared.
There are women who allow their husbands to go and marry second, third, and as long as you can take care of the wife and the kids and there's unity in the family. I've seen such families, there are many of them.
But you don't want that for yourself?
No, I don't want it for myself.
But
I recognize it's there, it's been there, and you're just embracing it.
Meanwhile, in the Rift Valley, life continues relatively unchanged by the new law. Alice and Mary weren't able to stop their husband marrying again. But what of their daughters and daughters of Kenya's generations to come? How will this controversial law impact on their lives and their future marriages?
And now it's time for the weather report. Raoul, hit it.
This is not a pen. It's a pair of scissors. It's also a glue stick. And whilst it's an itchy head scratcher, it's also a neat little shortcut. Because this is not a pen. This is the
And there you have it. This is the daily update, the daily streams of the Hoeksteen Live. Once more time, reminding you of this number of Foreign Affairs magazine. See America, land of decay and dysfunction. And doesn't only apply to America, it applies also to the whole of Europe.